After centuries of turmoil, four realms that have been in conflict for generations have finally put aside their differences and agreed to work together to build a better tomorrow. As a symbol of commitment to this newfound alliance, the four factions agree to construct a new city together. A location where the borders of the four realms intersect is selected as the home for the world's first airborne city, Skyward. In Skyward, players will utilize the specialties of each of the four factions to their advantage to construct their sector of this new city. Each player's sector of the city is the location of the table in front of them, called their airspace, where they will play cards throughout the game. And while the floating city will be a marvel of ingenuity and cooperation, only one airspace sector of it can be the most successful. Your goal is to be the player who builds the most successful airspace of Skyward City. You will accomplish this by smartly selecting and playing cards that will be drafted each round. The cards are the keys to the success of your burrow in Skyward, and they are specially designed to be stacked in a way that won't obscure critical information as you construct your civic improvements. Skyward is played over several rounds, broken into two parts, the split and the launch. During the split, the first player of the round, the Warden, who will be holding the Warden badge, deals a number of cards which will vary based on the number of players from the main deck face up. That player then divides them into a number of piles equal to the number of players. The Warden will also place the Warden badge and cog token onto one of the piles of their choosing. Then, starting with the player to the Warden's left, players take one of the remaining piles and add its cards to their hand. If a player chooses the pile with the Warden badge and cog token, they receive those in addition to the cards in that pile. If the pile a player takes contains cards with an instant effect, those cards must be resolved immediately when taken, and then placed face up in that player's airspace, instead of being added to their hand. This process continues clockwise until all players have selected a pile of cards. Then, the launch phase begins. During the launch phase, starting with the Warden and continuing clockwise until all players have taken a turn, players may launch one building from their hand by discarding enough faction cards to pay the building's indicated cost. The building is then placed face up in the player's airspace. Cogs can be used to substitute for a faction cost. When cogs are used, they are returned back to the reserve. The players then end their turn by discarding down to a maximum of 6 cards in their hand if necessary. The round is completed once all players have taken a turn. Then, play continues to the next round until the game's end has been triggered. The end of the game is triggered when either the launch deck is emptied or any player ends their turn with 6 or more buildings in their airspace. When that happens, scores are calculated at the end of the current round. To score, each player adds up the value of all their buildings in their airspace, along with any additional victory points earned from end-of-game scoring effects. The player with the most victory points has constructed the most thriving airspace and is declared the winner. So, wisely determine which factions you will ally with and start ambitiously building towards the heavens in order to push your airspace and score Skyward.